The world is silent here. The only sound is the wind. It moves like a living thing, crawling through the frozen valley, pressing against every surface it touches. The air burns the skin, sharp and dry, as if filled with invisible needles. At -30 degrees, even breathing hurts. He steps off the snowmobile and looks around. The guide gives a nod, then disappears into the white fog. Within seconds, the sound of the engine fades away, leaving nothing. Just one man, a frozen landscape, and 2 days to survive. The snow stretches endlessly in all directions. There are no trees for shelter, no tracks, no birds. The sun hangs low and weak behind a veil of cloud. Every breath turns to ice before it leaves his mouth. The human body is not made for this kind of cold. In these temperatures, skin freezes in less than 10 minutes. Fingers and toes lose feeling first. The body responds by narrowing blood vessels, keeping warmth near the heart. But that same defense makes the hands useless, clumsy, and slow. He adjusts his gloves and moves toward a small ridge. The snow crunches under his boots. Each step feels heavier than the last. The pack on his back weighs 15 kilos. An axe, a shovel, a small knife, one steel pot, and a fire striker. No tent, no sleeping bag. He knows that if he stops moving for too long, his body heat will fall fast. The wind chill makes it worse. Every gust steals more warmth. The goal for day one is simple. Find a place to build shelter before night comes. The temperature will drop even lower after sunset. At 30 below, exposed flesh can freeze in under 2 minutes. He scans the horizon. The world is pale and empty. There's a small dip near the base of the ridge, a shallow hollow that might block the wind. He begins to dig. The snow is dense like concrete. Every shovelful takes effort. He works in short bursts, careful not to sweat. Sweat is dangerous in cold air. Once wet, clothes freeze solid, and the heat drains faster. The shovel scrapes ice. His breathing grows heavy. He pauses to check his hands. They're stiff, the fingertips pale. He rubs them together inside his gloves, trying to force the blood back. The human body burns calories fast in this environment. Shivering alone can double or triple the energy used per hour. Without enough food, the body begins to cannibalize muscle to stay warm. But he's eaten only once today. A small breakfast hours before the drop. Hunger will come soon, and with it, weakness. He keeps digging, building the start of a snow wall. The wind roars across the open plain, throwing fine crystals into the air. They stick to his eyelashes, his beard, the edge of his coat. The temperature feels lower now, maybe closer to -35 with the wind chill. He checks the time. It's only early afternoon, but the light is fading. In this part of the world, the sun barely rises in winter. Soon it will dip below the ridge, and the land will fall into shadow. He moves faster. The shelter grows, a shallow trench surrounded by a low wall. It's not much, but it's something to crawl into. The snow acts as insulation, trapping a small pocket of air that might hold a few degrees of warmth. He knows he'll still freeze without fire, but this is the first line of defense. He kneels to test the ground. It's frozen solid. Starting a fire here will be difficult. There's no wood in sight. He begins to walk the ridge, searching. His breath comes in clouds. The landscape gives nothing. No trees, no brush, no dry grass. Just snow and stone. In polar regions, fire becomes more than comfort. It's life without heat. The core temperature drops below 35 degrees Celsius. Mild hypothermia. The body begins to shake. Below 33 degrees Celsius, the shivering stops, not because you're warm, but because the body gives up trying. Thought becomes slow. Movement turns clumsy. Below 30 degrees Celsius, the mind starts to fade. Sleep becomes tempting. Many who freeze to death never feel pain at the end. They just fall asleep. He knows these numbers. He's read them, studied them, memorized them. But standing here, with the cold crawling into his bones, they no longer feel like facts. They feel like warnings. A patch of dark catches his eye near the ridge. A cluster of frozen willow shrubs. They're small, twisted, brittle, but enough to start something. He breaks them apart, gathering what he can. Each branch snaps clean with a sharp crack. He carries the bundle back to his shelter and lays them on the snow. His hands shake as he pulls out the striker. The first few sparks vanish in the wind. He crouches lower, shielding the fire pit with his body. Again, spark, 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 until finally a small ember glows. He feeds it with dry bark, his breath slow and steady. For a moment, there's hope. A thin wisp of smoke rising into the cold air. Then the wind gusts, and it's gone. He sits back, exhausted. His face is red, lips cracked, eyelashes frozen white. The silence feels heavier now, pressing on his chest. The temperature keeps falling. He tries again. Spark, spark, a flicker. This time he shields it better, cupping both hands tight around the glow. It catches faintly, a thread of flame curling upward. He feeds it slivers of bark, then small twigs. Slowly, the fire grows. The light is weak, but it's alive. The snow around the small pit glows orange. He watches the flame dance, the first movement in this dead landscape. The body reacts fast, fingers begin to thaw, pain rushing back with the blood. It's sharp and burning. He doesn't care. It means life. Night begins to fall. The sky turns violet, then black. Stars appear, thousands of them, bright and sharp in the frozen air. The fire crackles, throwing shadows across the snow walls. He huddles close, hands out, face lit by the flame. Around him, the cold presses in from every side. The first night is coming. The test has only begun. Phase 2. Leo's introduction and shelter and fire. Night 1. The light is fading fast. The cold deepens with every breath. Out here, -30 feels like the world is closing in. The man in the snow is named Leo. For most of his life, he's lived on the edge of danger. A former US commando, Leo has spent years operating in some of the world's harshest environments. Deserts, jungles, frozen mountains. He survived ambushes, storms, and isolation few could imagine. His body is trained for endurance. His mind is wired for control. But nothing in his past has fully prepared him for this. 2 days alone in an unbroken field of ice and silence. He doesn't talk much. He never did. His eyes move constantly, measuring, calculating. Every drift of snow, every change in wind direction means something. In survival, observation comes first, action second. Leo knows that the cold doesn't kill instantly. It waits. It drains heat through skin, steals energy from the muscles, slows the mind. It's a quiet killer, and the only way to fight it is to keep moving, to build, to work. He starts with shelter. The sun drops behind the trees, and the snow turns from white to silver. He finds a shallow slope, protection from the wind, and begins to dig. The shovel hits frozen ground with a sharp metallic sound. Each movement is slow, deliberate, controlled. He works barehanded now and then, shaping the snow walls with his gloves off to feel the texture. The cold bites deep, but he ignores it. He's building what survival experts call a kinzi, a snow dome carved from packed drifts. It's one of the few shelters that can trap body heat even in sub-zero conditions. Inside, he shapes a hollow chamber just large enough for his body. No wasted space. Every inch counts. When the human body lies on snow, it loses heat 30 times faster than in air. A single mistake, too much contact with the ground, too little insulation, can mean death before morning. Leo scrapes together a layer of spruce branches for bedding. The resin smell cuts through the frost. His breath forms a steady rhythm. In, out, like a machine keeping time. He's been in worse places, he tells himself. But this is different. In combat, you can fight an enemy. Here, the enemy doesn't fight back. It only waits for weakness. He crouches at the entrance and pulls out his fire kit. A steel striker, a cotton ball, and a few pieces of dry birch bark he found earlier beneath a tree. The air is heavy, the kind that swallows sound. One spark, then another. On the third strike, a flicker of orange glows against his glove. He breathes life into it, slowly, carefully. The flame catches, then spreads. Fire. The first victory. At -30, fire is more than warmth. It's life made visible. The heat can prevent frostbite, melt snow for drinking water, and lift morale when nothing else can. Leo melts snow in a small tin cup, careful not to let it boil. Boiling drives away oxygen, leaving the water flat and tasteless. But it's clean now, safe to drink. He sips slowly. The warmth runs down his throat like fuel into an engine. Outside, the sky clears. Stars fill the night, cold and bright. The air temperature drops again, pushing below -35. Inside the snow shelter, it's just above freezing. The difference between life and death. Leo sits still for the first time in hours. The silence presses on him. No engines, no voices, no city glow. Only the hiss of the fire and the dull ache in his fingers. Isolation is a strange weapon. In war it was rare. A few hours alone between missions, never days. Here, it's absolute. No radio, no backup. Just breath and memory. He checks his body. Fingers pale but flexible. Toes burning. A good sign. The blood is still moving. He knows the early signs of frostbite by heart. Numbness, waxy skin, loss of feeling. If that happens, there's no fixing it. You cut it off, or you die from infection. He massages his hands, keeping circulation alive. In extreme cold, blood flow retreats from the skin to protect the core organs: brain, heart, lungs. The outer body begins to freeze while the inner body burns through energy reserves. Without food, Leo's body will start consuming muscle tissue within 24 hours. He eats half a ration bar. He doesn't want to, but he knows he must pace his calories. 1 bar now, 1 tomorrow. The sugar gives him a brief rush, then fades. The hunger will follow, but the warmth of the fire holds it at bay. For now. Outside, the wind builds again. The snow whispers against the walls of the kinzi. Each gust makes the shelter creak, reminding him how fragile it is. He adjusts his gear, tightens the collar around his neck, and lies down on the spruce bed. Inside his mind, thoughts drift between focus and memory. Flashes of old missions, friends gone, the sound of rotor blades in dust. Out here, those memories keep him human. He whispers quietly to himself, not for the camera, not for the record, but to hear another voice, even if it's his own. Day 1. Shelter built, fire holding, temperatures dropping. I'm still here. The camera catches his face in the dim orange light. Calm, tired, frost gathering in his beard. Night 1. The hardest part of survival is not the cold itself, it's the silence. It tests more than endurance. It tests identity. For now, Leo has shelter, fire, and the will to keep fighting. But the long night has just begun. The fire crackles, wind howls through the trees. The screen fades to black. Phase 3. The fight for warmth. Day 1 morning. The first light comes weak and blue. It creeps across the snow, cold and slow, touching the land like frost itself. Inside the shelter, Leo stirs. The fire is gone. Only a small circle of blackened snow marks where it burned. He opens his eyes to silence. His breath hangs in the air, white and heavy. The world hasn't changed. Still frozen, still endless. But time has. Night has passed. He's made it through the first test. He shifts his body. Every muscle aches. The snow bed is uneven, hard. He feels the cold pressing through his clothes like weight. The thin layer of spruce beneath him has frozen solid overnight. When he moves, ice cracks under his back. Outside, the temperature has fallen even lower. The thermometer clipped to his jacket reads -33 degrees Celsius. With wind chill, it's closer to -40. The narrator's tone stays calm, factual. At 40 below, exposed skin can freeze in less than a minute. Breath turns to frost on contact, and even the air inside lungs feels sharp. The body loses heat faster than it can produce it. Every movement becomes a calculation of energy versus survival. Leo pushes himself upright. He checks his fingers. Still pink, still working. His face burns where frost touched it during the night, tiny red patches forming across his cheeks. He brushes away a crust of ice from his beard, then crawls out of the shelter. The world is blinding white. The sunrise paints the snow in pale gold, but there is no warmth in it. The wind is gentle now, whispering instead of roaring. The cold, though, is absolute. It seeps through layers, hunts for weakness. He scans the horizon. Nothing moves. No footprints, no tracks, no sound. Just silence and the slow drift of snow crystals across the surface. He knows he needs more fuel. The fire saved him last night, but it burned out too soon. To survive the next one, he needs a proper reserve. Wood, brush, anything dry enough to burn. He shoulders his pack and begins to move. Walking in deep snow is exhausting. Each step sinks halfway to his knees. His body fights to stay balanced. He's breathing quick and shallow. Within minutes, his heart rate climbs. Sweat forms under his layers, and that's dangerous. Moisture is the enemy. Once clothes get wet, they lose insulation, and the body cools at triple speed. He forces himself to slow down, finding a rhythm. Step, breathe, rest. Step, breathe, rest. After 20 minutes, he reaches the edge of a frozen stream. A thin line of dark brush marks the bank. Willow and dwarf birch, stunted by the cold but still standing. He kneels, snapping branches, testing for dryness. Most are brittle enough to burn. He gathers an armful, then another. The narrator's tone deepens, instructive. At these temperatures, even dead wood can hold ice inside. Leo knows that moisture must be driven out before burning. He splits the branches lengthwise with his knife, exposing the dry inner fibers that catch fire more easily. Every small step increases the odds of survival. He loads the branches into a crude sled he built from his pack's frame and a few tied straps, then hauls it back toward the shelter. The journey back feels longer. The cold bites harder now that he's sweating. He knows he has to dry his clothes as soon as he relights the fire. Back inside the shelter, he kneels, setting up a new fire pit slightly deeper to protect the flame from wind. He arranges thin shavings of birch bark, adds slivers of dry wood, then strikes the steel. The first spark catches instantly. The flame grows, alive and restless, its light bouncing off the snow walls. He sits close, letting the heat wash over him. Steam rises from his jacket, moisture leaving, warmth returning. He stretches his hands toward the fire, fingers trembling as feeling returns. Cold attacks the human body in layers. First comes numbness, then stiffness, then confusion. But warmth brings pain. A deep burning ache as frozen tissues thaw. It's the price of staying alive. Leo eats the rest of his ration bar. Slow, mechanical bites. He melts more snow in his tin cup, watching it turn from white crystals to clear water. Each sip feels earned. The sun climbs higher, but the air stays frozen. His breath still fogs the air like smoke. He checks his gear, adjusting straps and seals, making sure no skin is exposed. Even a tiny gap can lead to frostbite. The camera lingers on his face, calm, focused, but tired. The night took more from him than he admits. Behind his steady movements, the fatigue shows. His eyes are red, his jaw tight. Sleep had been shallow, broken by shivering. His body never truly rested. He steps outside again, studying the land. Humans have survived in the cold for thousands of years. Hunters, explorers, soldiers. But always with tools, with fire, with community, alone. Stripped to the basics, survival becomes a negotiation between body and will. Leo walks to the ridge to check for landmarks. The valley below stretches endless. The wind has erased his footprints from yesterday. It's as if he was never here. The isolation presses harder. He feels it in his chest. Not fear exactly, but awareness. A sharp reminder that nature doesn't care. He kneels, scoops a handful of snow, and lets it fall through his glove. It sparkles in the sun, each flake perfect. For a moment, he feels something like peace. Then the wind shifts, colder, reminding him that peace here is temporary. Back at the shelter, he reinforces the snow walls with more packed ice, building a higher ridge on the windward side. He works in silence, rhythm steady. His breath fogs, his tools scrape. The fire crackles faintly behind him. Every movement serves a purpose. Every second counts. Survival is not a contest of strength. It's a conversation between instinct and intelligence, between endurance and exhaustion. The body demands warmth. The mind demands reason. When either fails, the cold wins. By midday, Leo's shelter is stronger, his fire burning clean. He sits beside it, knife in hand, shaping a small stick into a spike. Not because he needs it yet, but because keeping his hands busy keeps his mind focused. He looks toward the horizon one more time. The sky is clear, but a faint haze builds far in the distance. The edge of a storm. The temperature is dropping again. Leo stares at the sky for a long moment, then turns back to the fire. The glow reflects in his eyes. The only movement in an unmoving world. He's won the morning. The fight will continue tonight. Phase 4. The long night, facing isolation and cold. The day fades faster than Leo expects. By late afternoon, the sun hangs low, a thin golden coin over a frozen horizon. The light looks warm, but the air tells another story. The temperature drops with every breath. He stands beside his fire, staring out at the empty land. The valley below glows faintly under the pale sky, and for a brief moment, it looks beautiful. Endless white plains, shining like glass. But beauty in this place is a trap. It hides how deadly it really is. Leo adjusts his gloves and packs snow around the base of the fire pit, sealing it from the wind. His instincts tell him to prepare for something. The air feels wrong. Heavier, sharper, charged. Somewhere in the distance, the wind changes direction, carrying the deep rumble of a storm. The narrator's tone sharpens. Out here, storms move fast. Temperatures can drop 10 degrees in an hour. Winds reach 80 kilometers per hour, strong enough to tear through snow shelters and strip heat from skin in seconds. Leo knows this rhythm. He's seen storms build before, in deserts, jungles, mountains. The signs are always the same. Silence first, then pressure. The air goes still, as if the world holds its breath. He checks his surroundings one more time, making sure his gear is tight, the shelter reinforced. The fire crackles, throwing light against the snow walls. Inside the Quincy, the air is slightly warmer, maybe -5. Outside, it's already below -35. As night falls, Leo faces a new enemy: wind. Unlike cold, wind moves. It finds openings, exploits weakness. In a blizzard, vision drops to 0. Orientation fails. People can freeze within meters of safety, simply because they can't find it again. Leo gathers the last of his wood into a bundle beside the fire. He can feel the storm pushing closer now. A dull vibration in the ground. The wind rises, carrying snow like smoke. He takes a deep breath and focuses. This isn't panic, it's calculation. He spent years training to stay calm under pressure. In ambush zones, under gunfire, in darkness. This is different, but the mindset is the same. Stay ahead of the problem. He crouches near the fire, feeding it more wood. The flames leap higher, defiant against the cold. The smoke rises and disappears into the storm wind. The first gust hits. Sudden, violent, snow bursts across the ridge, smothering his tracks. Leo's hood whips back. The cold hits his neck like a blade. He drops low, holding his gear close, fighting the wind's pull. He drags more snow onto the shelter, building a thicker roof. The entrance begins to close in, leaving only a narrow crawl space. It feels claustrophobic, but it's the only way to trap heat and block the wind. Inside, he listens. The storm grows louder, a roar of endless air and ice. The walls shudder under the pressure. Powder leaks through cracks, falling in tiny white streams. He pushes against the walls, testing their strength. They hold, barely. At -40, human skin freezes on contact. Exposed metal sticks to flesh. The body begins to burn calories at a desperate rate. Over 6,000 per day, even while resting. Dehydration sets in quickly, as water lost through breath and sweat turns to ice. Leo takes another sip of melted snow, careful not to spill a drop. His lips are cracked, his tongue dry. The heat from the fire warms the small space, but the air feels thin. Smoke gathers near the ceiling. He opens a small vent to keep oxygen flowing. Hours pass. The storm rages without mercy. Inside the shelter, time dissolves. Leo checks his watch. Midnight. He hasn't slept. His hands tremble from exhaustion, but his mind stays alert. He stares at the fire, mesmerized by its rhythm. Isolation changes the man. In silence, the brain fills the void. Memory becomes company. Thought turns into noise, but for trained survivors like Leo, that noise is fuel. A reminder of why they keep moving. He thinks about old missions. Night drops into unknown terrain. The cold metal of weapons, the smell of jet fuel before takeoff. Back then, he fought men. Now, He fights nature itself. The difference is clear. Nature doesn't aim to kill. It simply exists. Outside, the storm peaks. Wind howls like a living creature. The shelter shakes. Leo grips his pack, ready to move if it collapses. For a few tense seconds, it feels like the snow roof will cave in. But it holds. He breathes slow, steady. His training returns. Heart rate control, energy conservation, mental focus. The principles that saved him in combat now save him here. Finally, the wind begins to ease. The roar fades to a whisper. Hours later, silence returns. Leo crawls out, half buried under a drift of snow. The landscape has transformed. His shelter is nearly invisible, covered in a smooth white layer. The stars above shine like ice. The air is perfectly still. He stands there, alone, surrounded by frozen beauty. The cold wraps around him like armor. Every muscle aches, every joint stiff, but he's alive. He takes a slow breath and looks at the horizon. The storm has passed, but the damage lingers. Leo has survived another night in one of the planet's most hostile environments. His fire is gone, his energy low, but his will remains. In survival, courage is not noise, it's endurance. Quiet, deliberate, and unyielding. As dawn approaches, the valley glows faintly beneath a sky of deep blue and fading stars. The cold is still here. The fight continues. But so does he.